overdose deaths in the parish. We have had 140 homicide deaths this year, surpassing 2020, which was 136. We have had 248 overdoses this year, with many cases still pending toxicology results, surpassing 2020, which was 242. Both these tragic statistical records mark 2021 as the most deadly year on record in East Baton Rouge Parish history as it relates to homicides and overdoses. It is with a heavy heart that I share this news with you. It is important to highlight that we are approaching twice the number of overdoses as we have homicides. It has become rare that any overdose worked by my office and our law enforcement colleagues does not involve illicit fentanyl. Everything is being adulterated with fentanyl. So far this year, we've had 248 overdoses, and only 28 of those do not involve illicit fentanyl. I have spoken about the opioid epidemic and the rise of opioid overdoses in the parish for the last decade. So today, I thought I would do something different. I would like to let you hear from someone other than me. I'm going to invite some people to the podium to speak that have firsthand knowledge and experience of this tragic loss.
Hi everyone, my name is Pamela Rivas. This is a defining moment brought about by a defining issue that is plaguing this generation, one afflicting our community, the out-of-control drug overdose deaths resulting from illicit heroin and fentanyl. I have personally lost 3 children to the opioid crisis. One overdosed from methadone many years ago, and 2 of my children died within a 3.5-week period just this past July. One died from heroin that had been laced with fentanyl, and the other from just pure fentanyl. As you can imagine, my heart shattered, as did my world, into millions and millions of tiny little pieces, and I've never been the same. Losing a child is in a category of pain all its own, and is something that I don't wish upon another person. My children's lives mattered. Each overdose victim's life matters, and I stand here today on behalf of each of them as a part of finding a solution. It seems to me that if these children had died at the hands of a bullet, their deaths might be deemed more important and the case prioritized and worked a lot differently. And so my question is, why is that? Why is an overdose death any different from death by bullet? It's blatantly obvious to me that this present system in place to work drug overdose deaths is just not effective. It simply isn't working, so something needs to change. Drug overdose deaths, more times than not, involve some level of criminal activity. Louisiana law stipulates that when an offender unlawfully distributes or dispenses a controlled dangerous substance, which is the direct cause of the death of that person who ingested or consumed the controlled dangerous substance, that person commits second-degree murder. So why are these perpetrators getting away with murder is a question that we need to ask law enforcement. I want my children's overdose cases to be fully investigated as if they had been murdered with a bullet. There is no difference at all. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. As law enforcement pillars in our community, I'm imploring you to investigate each case as if it were your own child's death. And that will require intentionality, devotion, and heart. Each case represents a person, someone's child or brother or sister or mother or father. There needs to be some upheaval, some restructuring internally of the ways that these homicide cases are viewed and worked. The narrative must change internally before we see it change externally. Last, would you rather not partner with parents of overdose victims than have an adversarial relationship with them? In many cases, we the parents know exactly who our children were involved with. So wanting to see overdose deaths decrease in our community simply isn't enough. Dreaming about it isn't enough. We have to fight against it. And that's going to start with a collaborative effort, including focusing on getting dealers off the streets by prosecuting them for their parts in these deaths. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Verita Lee, and I lost my son to an accidental drug overdose on August the 14th of 2019. I'm here today. I'm sick. I had to make a choice because I need justice for my son. His death was ruled accidental. He lost his limb, his right leg, in December of 2018 by a drunk driver who hit him while he was putting something on the back of his truck. Of course, he had to turn to pain meds for the pain. Nobody knows the feeling of losing a leg or a limb to manage your pain. He was managing his pain. The day he passed, some friend he trusted came into the home where he was at and bought him lace pills and told him they was better than what he had. He was on pills for anxiety, Xanabars, if my memory serves me correct. Pills looked the same. The one he evidently took, crushed, I don't know how it went into his system, but talking to the coroner, it wasn't injected. So we know who left the home that day. He could not drive or go anywhere. So someone had to either take him or come there, and we know who came to the home and bought the pills. I told the investigators this, gave them their names. Still, 2 years has passed, and I kept saying his death was a homicide. He was murdered. He was killed. All of his meds were dumped out in the home. We knew someone had taken his Xanabars that he had like a day before. They were all gone from the home when we searched the home. So I'm here for my son. I'm sick. I want justice. And the person that thought his life wasn't important and gave him the pill or whatever they gave him that took his life. He left 3 children back here, a grieving mom, 2 sisters, his niece, who she's going to say a few words, and I'm going to stop, but all I want is justice for these people and families, and my heart goes out to you and everyone that's here, because it has to be affecting everybody's family. We don't know what our children are going through, but I knew my son had lost a limb, and he was on pain medication, under pain management. And for someone to come in and steal his pills and give him one that took his life. He was found unresponsive, just where the young lady said she had pushed him in the kitchen. That's where he was laid out on the floor, stiff as a board. So he had whatever they gave him, it took him out like that. There was no bringing him back. Thank y'all for hearing what I had to say. And this is my son on her shirt.
I just want to say, I'm Javondria Mabry. Keaton Lee was my uncle. I just feel this morning, a person's life value costs way more than a few dollars for a pressed pill with fentanyl. It's just not worth it. Keaton was an uncle. He was a son, father, and a brother. what the people take for a few dollars that they sell these press pills for, $5, $10, it's not worth it. A life is way more important. It costs and values way more. And I just hope, like they say, that they start charging.
Rouge Coroner Beau talk a little bit about some scary statistics that they are focused on, and actually we're going to stay on top of that one for you. Again, the live look at that press conference being hosted by the coroner, the homicide rate up, obviously, overdose rate up, obviously. We'll be keeping, again, a close eye on that for you as you kind of step through your day. Clearly a crew out there. We're going to get those high points for you, let you know what they have to say. But there is more than just this going on, because if you look at downtown Baton Rouge right now, right, it's not a bad start. It ain't the start today that we're going to be really focused on. This is what we're really focused on. The first alert to some severe weather coming through our part of the world later today. It's really going to be around early afternoon. It's going to last until kind of early evening, maybe noon or 1 o'clock until the 7 or 8 o'clock hour, that kind of thing. You can see the timing right there. The key is there anything out in front of this line of storms, right? Potential for tornadoes, that has increased overnight to about 10%, which means that the level that we are under, the severe weather level from the National Weather Service, is now a level 3 out of 5. Obviously, that puts us at a little bit higher sense of focus, but once we get through with this, this is on the way. You can see what Wednesday is, and then look at the temperature drop into Thursday into Friday. Looks like it's shaping up for a brilliant weekend, right? It is. But this is what, for instance, Dr. Steve on the morning show has been talking about. This is what we got to deal with today, and then get ready for what's to come. And oh, by the way, Dr. Steve is going to be with you right here at 9:30, giving you a full forecast, kind of laying out the timing for all this. So you don't have to go anywhere. You're going to be breaking in on WAFB Plus, all those different channels, plus hitting Facebook as well. Dr. Steve coming up at 9:30 with your forecast as we get ready for it. Now, if that wasn't going on, this would be the headline maker of the day, right? New day in Louisiana, mask mandates no longer statewide. The governor lifting those. They were set to expire today. They are expiring today. But there's a caveat here, because there are some exceptions. Of course, private businesses, they can still enforce, if you walk into their shop, their restaurant, their store, whatever, they could ask you to put on a mask. You have K through 12 schools who are able to kind of do their own thing if they promise to adhere to CDC guidelines. LSU, Southern, BRCC, all saying that they are going to keep going with the masks for right now anyway. The city of New Orleans, the entire city, is going to keep the mask mandate in place until they get a deeper look at some of the numbers going on right now. So it's not just this story. Actually, if you go over to WAFB.com, the 9 News app, you'll see that story here, but you also see things like list of area schools opting to opt out of the mask mandate, those looking to stay in. So it's a number of stories kind of all together here, because it is such a big to-do. Again, if it wasn't for the weather today, this would be the top story. All this coming as this happened yesterday. The FDA advisory panel, backing now Pfizer's low-dose, a pediatric version, if you will, of the COVID vaccine for ages 5 to 11. So that's nearly 30 million more Americans now eligible, or will be, if this step continues to go forward here. First it's the FDA, then of course the CDC has to sign off on this, full FDA, CDC director. I know it sounds like a lot, and it is. All those bases have to be covered and run through. But if all that were to happen, and this is the first step here, if all that were to happen, it could be sometime next week that those shots begin to roll out. So a big move here from the FDA. This as well. The big stories just kind of continue. We're nearing 2 months since Hurricane Ida tore through parts of southeast Louisiana. And tomorrow's a big deadline. If you have not applied for FEMA aid and you think you might qualify, tomorrow is that deadline, the last day to do that. Obviously, there are a number of parishes, better than 24, that are in that disaster declaration that now qualify for FEMA aid. Look, you know what? Even if you don't think you're going to qualify, but you took on some damage, why don't you see about maybe registering and seeing if you do qualify? There's 3 ways to do it. And in this story, I'm going to show you right here, we have the ways to do it for you. One is you can actually click online. Right here, it says by clicking here, it's a little blue link. Click here, you can apply online. The second way, phone number, right here, that we also have waiting for you. The third is to download the free FEMA app as well. So a few options to kind of get you through this, but again, that deadline is coming up. That's going to be tomorrow. So please, if you think even you might be, you can qualify for it, do that and see if you might be able to get a little bit of help. So all that's going on. That's a lot. That's a ton of heavy. But how about something to maybe smile about when we get through all this? Do you know what tomorrow brings? Day one, Greater Baton Rouge State Fair. Look, this is something that we didn't get to enjoy last year because, well, we know everything that was going on last year. So it's been a minute. If you've not been out to the Greater Baton Rouge State Fair, it's just one of those spots, from all the rides to all the food to all the fun. It just is one of those spots where you can kind of go and you can take that deep breath, eat all the good stuff that you want, and just kind of enjoy it. Tomorrow's day one. So weather permitting, and again, it looks like that weather's going to be out of the way, but you know, what does it kind of leave behind? Maybe a little bit of mud out here. A little bit of mud never stopped nobody. So we'll be talking a little bit more about day one of the Greater Baton Rouge State Fair tomorrow. You have the opportunity to start getting out there tomorrow evening. Obviously, it runs for a couple weeks. But yeah, day one of the Greater Baton Rouge State Fair. It almost seems like we are kind of getting back to those things that we love so much. We'll talk a little bit more about that. WAFB Plus, all the places, Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, YouTube, Facebook, depending on what we're doing, because here in a quick minute, you don't have to go anywhere. As mentioned, Dr. Steve Caparata is going to join you right here, plus on Facebook, to talk a little bit more about the forecast that is going to be the headline maker. We'll show you why again here. We're going to leave you with this as you maybe check off here, but stick around for Dr. Steve. That's the headline maker. You can see the timing on this front coming through. Some watches already in place to the west of us. Tornado watches already in place to the west of Baton Rouge that are set to stay there until 4 o'clock. Dr. Steve talked a little bit about that, the back end of the morning show. As we got closer to 8:30 and 9 o'clock, some of those watches went into effect. But could those now begin to stretch a little further east as the timing on this line of storms gets a little bit more narrowed down? The idea, just be up to date with the very latest. Get all the information you can, obviously. Best way to do that, First Alert Weather app, the 9 News app as well. They're both free, easy to download, easy to keep with you in the palm of your hand. So tell you what, keep it where you got it right here, WAFB Plus. Dr. Steve is going to be with you in about, let's check the time, about 8 minutes, giving you the very latest forecast on this system blowing through. Let's get through this one and then look forward to what looks to be a great, great weekend. Y'all be safe. Dr. Steve is with you in a little bit more than 5 minutes now. Bye, y'all.
Hope in my job as the coroner is that I don't ever have to report on an overdose death because nobody dies of an overdose, and to me that would be a good day.
What areas are you seeing this more prevalent in with fentanyl?
I'm sorry, I don't
What
understand.
areas are people dying? Where are you seeing the majority of people overdosing on fentanyl?
Well, as the coroner, I'm in charge of the whole parish, so it's everywhere. It's north to south, east to west. It's all walks of life. Addiction knows no boundary. So you know, it's not affecting you know, men more than women or anything like that. It is affecting everybody, and that's why the death rate is so prevalent and such a large number, because everybody and anybody can be affected by it.
What else can we do? I mean, we talk about the criminal aspect of this and prosecuting, getting these guys off the streets, but you know, as you said, there's a two-pronged approach. I mean, what do we do? What else can we do as a community to slow this? Because I mean, it seems like it's a train that's running off the tracks right now.
Yeah, so treatment becomes a very challenging thing, and the reason for that is because treatment for substance abuse is expensive, and so some people don't have insurance, and if they don't have insurance, then it becomes out of pocket, and they may not have the money, and if they don't have the money for treatment, you know, then they may have a little money, and the little money is applied to their addiction problem. So I would like to see some of the pharmaceutical money that's coming down from these large lawsuits that we've seen take place go into treatment. As a matter of fact, I'd recommend the vast majority of it go into treatment. There are a lot of people out there that have addiction disorder problems that need to be addressed through the treatment side of our equation.
To follow up on that, you know, we got the settlement that was announced 3-4 weeks ago now, and Louisiana was getting that money is that going to be enough to kickstart it, or I mean, is this just a drop in the bucket?
So it is enough money to kickstart it for sure, if spent appropriately. But there probably is a lot of folks out there that are having addiction issues. And what you have to remember from a medical standpoint, I'll put my physician hat on for just a second, is that addiction treatment is not cookie cutter, meaning it's not a simple process of doing one thing and then you're all better. It is a longer process, and when you hear longer process and you hear not cookie cutter, you should think expensive. But we've got to start somewhere. We've got to save people's lives, and so by using that money, I think is definitely a step in the right direction.
What do you tell a parent, a loved one that's got a family member that's in the throes of addiction right now?
So we always tell them, get them help. Try to get them help. They certainly are welcome to come here. One of the duties of the coroners is to address mental illness. It's one of my largest jurisdictions, and we try to get those individuals into a safe environment. Oftentimes, though, that safe environment is only for a short period of time, and so you can see some recidivism with